A controversial new proposal from the Trump administration is shaking up the tech world, but the reactions might not be what you expect. Some of the biggest names in Silicon Valley are actually in favor of a new hefty fee for a special kind of visa that brings foreign talent to the United States. In this segment, we'll break down what's happening, why some tech leaders are supporting it, and why the startup community is sounding the alarm. First, let's talk about the H-1B visa. For decades, this has been a key tool for American companies. It allows them to hire foreign workers for jobs that require specialized knowledge in fields like technology, engineering, and medicine. Think of it as a temporary pass for some of the world's brightest minds to come and work in the U.S., often with the hope of one day staying permanently. The cost for a company to apply for one of these visas has typically been a few $1,000s. Now, the Trump administration has announced a dramatic change, a new one-time fee of $100,000 for every new H-1B application. This doesn't apply to current visa holders or those seeking renewals, but for any company wanting to bring in a new employee through this program, the price tag has just gone up significantly. You might expect the tech industry, which relies heavily on global talent, to be universally opposed to this. But that's where the story takes a surprising turn. Several high-profile leaders have come out in support of the fee. Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, called the $100,000 fee a great solution. Having been involved in H-1B policy debates for 30 years, Hastings argues this will guarantee the visas are used for what he calls very high-value jobs. He also believes it could eliminate the current lottery system, which is often criticized for being random. With such a high fee, the thinking goes, companies will only apply for the most critical and highly paid roles, adding more certainty to the process. So if the leaders of some of the world's biggest tech companies are on board, what's the problem? Well, the view looks very different from the ground floor of the tech industry. For startups and early-stage companies, this new fee isn't a tool to attract the best. It's a barrier that could stop them from growing altogether. Venture capitalists and startup founders have voiced serious concerns, arguing the policy will disproportionately harm smaller companies. A tech giant like Netflix can likely absorb a $100,000 fee for a key hire, but for a startup, that same amount could be a huge portion of their early funding. Many of these small, innovative companies depend on their ability to recruit specialized engineers from around the world, especially when they can't find that talent locally. Desmond Lim, the CEO of a startup called Workstream, said the fee would simply be too high for his company to justify. This sentiment is echoed across the startup ecosystem, where the announcement has reportedly caused uncertainty and panic. One legal tech startup, named Alma, reported a 100-fold increase in calls from anxious clients, both startups and foreign workers, in the wake of the news. The fear is that this financial burden won't just make it harder to hire, it could make U.S. startups less attractive to investors. Why would a venture capitalist pour money into an American startup that faces a massive hiring tax when they could invest in a similar company in Canada, the UK, or Europe, where the barriers to hiring global talent are much lower? Research has shown a link between startups hiring H-1B workers and their ability to secure funding and achieve innovative breakthroughs. This new policy could put that dynamic at risk. This leads to the bigger question: what could this mean for the United States economy and its position as the world's tech leader? For years, America has benefited from a global brain drain, attracting top minds from other countries who come to innovate and build new companies. This policy could potentially reverse that trend. Skilled workers might choose to build their careers and their businesses elsewhere, leading to a brain drain away from the United States. The new landscape could become one where only the wealthiest, most established companies can afford to import top international talent. While the goal may be to ensure H-1B visas are used for the most highly skilled workers, it could inadvertently stifle the next generation of innovation by starving smaller disruptive companies of the talent they need to succeed. So we have two very different perspectives. On the one hand, some of the most successful leaders in tech see this as a bold move to prioritize elite, high-value talent and add predictability to the immigration system. On the other, the startup world sees it as a crippling blow that could stifle innovation and drive investment and talent to other countries. The long-term effects remain to be seen. But this new fee is set to fundamentally change the competition for the world's best and brightest minds. In today's top story, we're examining a significant development in the social media landscape. TikTok's powerful algorithm is set to be overseen by the American tech giant Oracle as part of a deal to keep the app operational in the United States. This move aims to address long-standing national security concerns and will reshape how the popular video app operates for its 170 million American users. To understand how we arrived at this point, we need to look back a few years. U.S. lawmakers have long been concerned about TikTok. The app's parent company, ByteDance, is based in China, raising fears that the Chinese government could potentially compel ByteDance to hand over the data of American users. There were also worries that the algorithm, the very thing that makes TikTok so engaging, could be manipulated to promote certain narratives or suppress specific videos, possibly influencing public opinion in the U.S. These concerns led to a major turning point in 2024. Under then-President Joe Biden, a law was passed that gave ByteDance a clear choice: sell TikTok's U.S. operations to an American company or face a complete ban in the country. President Donald Trump, who succeeded Biden in January 2025, has since extended the deadline for this sale multiple times to allow for a deal to be negotiated. This brings us to the new plan. To avoid a ban, a new U.S.-based company will be created to control TikTok's American operations. This new venture will be majority-owned by a group of American investors, who will also control most of the board seats. Leading this group are two major players: the tech company Oracle and the private equity firm Silver Lake. Other prominent investors have also been linked to the deal. ByteDance, the original Chinese owner, will retain a minority stake of less than 20%. So what is Oracle's specific role in all of this? It's a significant one. Oracle will become the official security provider for the new U.S. company. This means they'll be responsible for storing all U.S. user data on their own cloud servers located within the United States. This is a key part of the plan to protect American data from any potential foreign access. Oracle has actually been storing TikTok's U.S. data since 2022, but this new deal dramatically expands that partnership. Perhaps the most critical part of Oracle's job involves TikTok's famous algorithm. The algorithm is the secret sauce of the app. It's the complex computer code that learns what users like and decides which videos appear on their personalized For You page. It's what makes the app feel so addictive and tailored to each individual. Under the new arrangement, the U.S. venture will get a licensed copy of this algorithm. Oracle will have the responsibility to fully inspect, monitor, and secure it. Crucially, the algorithm will be retrained using only data from users in the United States. The idea is to create a version of the algorithm that is firewalled from its Chinese origins, ensuring it operates without any outside influence. To add another layer of security, U.S. government officials will also be able to regularly inspect the algorithm to make sure it isn't being used for any harmful purposes. What does all of this mean for you, the user? The main goal of this complex deal is to ensure the app continues to work for its millions of American fans without any major interruptions. The White House has said that users in the U.S. will still be able to see videos from around the world, and people in other countries will still be able to see American content. The biggest change will be happening behind the scenes, with your data being stored and secured by Oracle in the U.S. For Oracle, this is a massive business victory. The company's stock price saw a jump after the news was announced. Securing TikTok as a major customer for its cloud infrastructure is a significant win in the competitive cloud computing market. Interestingly, this deal comes as Oracle announced a major leadership change, with its longtime CEO Safra Catz moving to a new role and two new chief executives, Clay McGorky and Mike Sicilia, taking her place. So what happens next? This deal, which would effectively save TikTok from a U.S. ban, still needs to get the final green light from regulators in both the United States and China. President Trump is expected to grant a 120-day extension for all the details to be finalized. The world will be watching closely to see if this unique arrangement can truly solve the national security puzzle while keeping the videos playing for millions. A 16-year-old scientific finding, the legal bedrock for United States limits on climate warming pollution, could soon be erased. The Trump administration has proposed revoking the Environmental Protection Agency's 2009 endangerment finding, a move Oregon officials warn will have serious and far-reaching consequences for the state's health, economy, and climate goals. First, what exactly is the endangerment finding? Picture a doctor's diagnosis. In 2009, after a 2007 Supreme Court ruling, the EPA formally concluded that 6 greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, and 4 others, endanger public health and welfare. That diagnosis gave the agency clear authority under the Clean Air Act to prescribe remedies, tougher fuel economy standards for cars, limits on power plant emissions, and other rules that have shaped United States climate policy ever since. Now, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin wants to tear up the diagnosis, calling the plan the largest deregulatory action in the history of America. The administration argues the Clean Air Act was meant for local smog, not global warming. Their main evidence, a Department of Energy report criticized by scientists for downplaying climate risks and misrepresenting data. Oregon leaders see the proposal as a direct threat. Governor Tina Kotek calls it politics, not science, warning it could slow or reverse progress on cleaner fuels and vehicles. Transportation alone produces roughly 35% of Oregon's greenhouse gas emissions. Many of the state's programs depend on strong federal standards. Without them, communities already burdened by traffic pollution could face more asthma attacks, hotter heat waves, and higher healthcare costs. The backlash extends well beyond Oregon. A coalition of 23 state attorneys general has formally objected, saying the proposal defies settled law, Supreme Court precedent, and overwhelming scientific consensus. California Governor Gavin Newsom labels it a dereliction of duty and a betrayal of the EPA's mission. Scientists are equally blunt. The National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine recently reaffirmed that the 2009 finding was accurate and that evidence of climate-related harm is now even stronger. In their words, the health dangers of climate change are beyond scientific dispute. If the finding is revoked, the EPA would lose its authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions for new vehicles and engines. Existing federal standards could be rolled back, potentially boosting pollution and undermining United States automakers' push toward cleaner technologies, just as global competitors race ahead. A courtroom showdown appears inevitable. States, public health groups, and environmental organizations are already preparing lawsuits, framing the fight as a test of whether science or politics will guide federal climate policy. For Oregonians, the stakes are personal. Hotter summers, smokier wildfire seasons, and higher energy costs if the state has to shoulder more of the burden alone. For the nation, the question is larger. Will a 16-year-old scientific diagnosis remain the cornerstone of clean air protections, or will it be stripped away, leaving the country with fewer tools to combat a warming planet? One thing is certain. The battle over the endangerment finding is no longer just an arcane legal debate inside Washington. It is a collision of federal power, state ambition, and scientific reality, one that will shape the air we breathe and the climate our children inherit.